She smiles, but not without calculation. She touches your face, but only when you still serve the story she's telling herself. She cries not for love, but for leverage. And you believed her. You called it sacred. You called it unconditional. You called it love. But love, real love, is not what she's here for. She is here for survival, for shelter cloaked in skin, for power dressed as tenderness, for utility masquerading as romance. You thought her affection was grace. It was insurance. You thought her loyalty was devotion. It was investment. You thought her silence meant understanding. It meant negotiation. You want her to love you, like a mother need you, like a daughter, obey you like a servant, admire you like a queen. But she is none of these. She is a mirror. She reflects only what benefits her. And when the reflection fades, so does the feeling. You believed her love was a sanctuary, but you were just the latest offering on the altar of her advantage. You thought her intuition was a mystery, something divine, something untouchable. You marveled at her instinct, how she just seemed to know when something was wrong, when you were lying, when another woman was a threat. You called it her sixth sense, her feminine magic. You envied it, maybe even feared it. But here is what you never understood. It was never magic. It was never spiritual. It was never sacred. It was strategy. A sharpened blade honed over centuries of being weaker in muscle, but never in mind. You were watching not a miracle, but an animal evolved to detect power shifts, mood breaks, attention loss, and security threats in milliseconds. You called it intuition. She called it survival. You forget history. You forget the arrangement. For most of time, she was property, and property must learn to read its master. If he came home silent, it could mean death. If he glanced too long at the maid, it could mean abandonment. If he lost his fortune, it could mean starvation. Her intuition is not holy, it is hypervigilance. You admire her sensitivity like it's romantic. It is not romance, it is radar, because she is always calculating where the threat is and who can protect her from it, even if that threat is you. She doesn't feel into you. She scans you. She doesn't read your soul. She reads your patterns. The way your eyes flinch when you're unsure. The tone of your voice when you're lying. The shift in your breathing when your desire weakens. Not to bond with you, but to detect weakness. Because if your grip on the wheel slips even a little, she must already know where the next driver is. You see, her nervous system was not built for truth. It was built for response. She doesn't want to understand you. She wants to know if you're still useful. And here you are, thinking it's a gift, thinking she's spiritually in tune, thinking she feels your pain. No, she feels your status. She feels your slipping edge. She feels your potential fall from grace. And the moment she senses it, her body reacts cold and automatic. Her pupils shrink. Her affection cools. Her attention wavers. You feel her pull away, and you don't know why. But she does. She already saw it, felt it, interpreted it. Because that is what her so-called intuition is designed to do. Read you before you even know you're crumbling. And the tragedy is this: you still want to believe it's beautiful, that her care is soul deep, that her gaze is mystical, that her warmth is holy. But you are not seeing a goddess. You are seeing an apex survivor, adapted to thrive not through confrontation, but through perception. She doesn't need to fight. She needs only to know. Earlier, faster, sharper than you. And that is the truth you will not face. That her intuition is not love. It is leverage. It is protection. It is the ancient whisper that tells her when the man before her is becoming a liability. You worship what was never meant to be worshipped. You romanticize what is purely tactical. And in doing so, you become the very thing she fears most, a man too deluded to see reality. You don't need to beat her. You don't need to outplay her. But if you cannot outsee her, outfeel her, outknow her, then understand this: she will not trust you. Because she does not trust weakness. Her intuition will sense your blindness. And when it does, she will disappear. Not as betrayal, not as cruelty, but as nature. Because what you called feminine intuition was just her way of surviving you. You thought love meant letting go. You thought it was the sacred space where both of you surrendered, where ego dissolved, where masks fell, where you could finally rest naked in the presence of another soul. But what you called surrender, she called exposure. What you called transparency, she called risk. You believed love was about truth, but she believed love was about leverage. And the moment you gave up your power, she didn't feel safe. She felt superior. Because beneath every smile, every embrace, every whispered forever, there is a silent negotiation happening, a balance of power, a tension of incentives. You give, she calculates. You reveal, she measures. You fall, she steps aside. You wanted love to be the one place where you didn't have to play a role, where you could be soft, flawed, uncertain. And she told you she wanted that too. She told you she loved your vulnerability, your honesty, your wounds. But that was before they cost her something, before your softness became need, before your truth became chaos, before your doubt became delay. You thought you were sharing, she thought you were slipping. And in her mind, slipping means she must compensate. Step up, step over, step away. Love to her is never just emotion, it's risk management. You don't want to hear this, but she doesn't love you for who you are. She loves you for the function you fulfill. She may not even know this herself, but her biology does. Her unconscious does. Her attraction runs parallel to your usefulness. She may tolerate your soul, but she is attracted to your competence, your edge, your stability, your threat to other men, your refusal to beg. And the moment you start believing love is enough, that presence alone justifies devotion, you become dispensable. Because she cannot afford to love a man who doesn't know how leverage works. She tests you not to get closer, but to verify you still hold the frame. She withdraws to see if you'll chase. She criticizes to see if you'll fold. She provokes to see if you'll apologize for truths you should never regret. These are not acts of cruelty. These are acts of assessment. You call them games. She calls them instincts. Because love to her is not the dissolving of roles, it's the optimizing of positions. If you do not know how to lead, protect, conquer, or withhold, then you have no leverage. And if you have no leverage, your love is weightless. You think unconditional love exists. Then show her a man who loses his job, his confidence, his mission, and clings to her like a boy. Watch how fast the warmth turns cold. Not because she's evil, not because she lied, but because she never signed up for imbalance. She is not your therapist. She is not your mother. She is not your audience. She is your mirror. And if you start reflecting weakness, dependency, or need, her body will reject you long before her mind can explain it. You cry out, "But I loved her." No. You traded something: attention, security, admiration, and you didn't realize it was a contract. You thought it was worship, but it was transaction. You broke the unspoken terms: stay strong, or I will look for strength elsewhere. That is not cruelty. That is leverage. That is nature. That is the quiet law pulsing beneath every relationship you've ever had. She can only fall into your arms if she knows those arms won't tremble when she does. And so you suffer. Not because she left, but because you misunderstood the game. Love was never mutual surrender. It was mutual leverage, and you gave yours away for free. There's a moment always when the mask slips, when her smile doesn't reach her eyes, when her warmth turns mechanical, when the rhythm changes and you know something is gone. You feel it before you understand it, before she says the words, before she packs the bag, before the door closes. The soul knows, because something ancient in you just died the illusion. And when it dies, a man either grows up or breaks. There is no third path. There is no return. You cannot unsee it. You cannot unknow what she really was, what you really were, and what this whole story was built upon. You either face it or it consumes you. You thought love was safety. You thought she was your sanctuary. You thought the world could wound you, but not her. She was your exception, the one you could trust, the one who would never betray you, never tire of you, never calculate your value like a butcher weighing meat. But she did, because she had to. And that truth, that cold truth, is where most men collapse. Not because it's unfair, but because it's undeniable. You can rage against it, cry over it, drown in it, but you can't kill it. The truth lives. The question is, do you? The moment her love stops being unconditional, you start dying. Not physically, but psychically, because her gaze gave you identity. Her approval gave you gravity, and when it's gone, you float, unmoored, unwanted. You feel as though your soul has been exiled from meaning. You stare at your hands and wonder what they're for. You sit in silence wondering how a body can feel this hollow. It's not her that broke you. It's the loss of the lie that love saves you, the lie that you'll be chosen forever, the lie that a woman's devotion will withstand your collapse. It won't. It never did. She was there for the version of you that held the line. When that man died, her desire died with him. So now you're left with a mirror, and no mask, and a choice. You either become the man who no longer needs the illusion, or you become its ghost. And you've seen the ghosts, haven't you? The men who never recovered, who carry her in their bones like a haunting, who replay the moments, who look for her face in strangers, who stay broken half alive, addicted to what they lost. They build their lives around the trauma, around the fantasy, around the memory of who they were when she still looked at them like they mattered. They don't grow. They decay. Because facing the truth would require more than pain. It would require maturity. You were not born to be chosen. You were born to become. If a woman chooses you along the way, that is weather. But it is not your sky. She is not your purpose. She is not your proof. And if your soul needs her to validate its worth, then you are not a man. You are a project, an empty vessel, begging for permission to exist. And when the truth finally hits you, when you see that her love was never yours, only rented on the condition of your usefulness, you either upgrade your understanding or rot in resentment. She is not coming back to save you. She never could. And the world doesn't care how shattered you are. So stand up or stay broken. Grow up or grow bitter. There is no redemption arc. There is no mercy scene. There is only this, the death of the dream, and the man you must become to live without it. You don't learn. You relapse. That's the real tragedy. Because even after the illusion shatters, even after you see her leave with cold eyes and clean hands, even after you kneel before the altar of truth, broken and stripped, you still crawl back to the myth. Maybe not right away. Maybe you swear off love, swear off women, swear you've awakened. But time softens the blade. Memory romanticizes the pain. And before long, you're auditioning new actresses for the same role. Same script, same fantasy. You call it hope. But it's hunger. The hunger for the myth to be real this time. You think she'll be different. You think she's not like the last one. This one is softer. This one is more spiritual. This one reads books, meditates, speaks gently, wears vulnerability like perfume. But all you've done is repaint the mask. You haven't escaped the illusion, you've updated it. You still want the same story, a woman who loves without conditions, who stays without terms, who sees you without filters. You want the holy grail of female devotion. But you forget she is not an archetype. She is not a cure. She is not the absence of the first betrayal. She is the continuity of it. And when she smiles at you like you matter, when she touches your hand with reverence, when she listens like no one ever has, your wounded boy believes again. He whispers, "This time she won't leave." He says, "This one understands." But it's not her he believes in. It's the myth. And the myth has no mercy. Because no matter how sweet she seems, she still has a nervous system trained by necessity. She still watches for weakness. She still calculates worth. She still moves with the same ancient instinct to secure the best possible protector at the lowest possible cost. You think she's different, but she's just better at pretending she isn't. And when the mask cracks, and it will, you'll feel that same coldness again, that same quiet shift, that same ancient script. Her love will wane as your leverage does. Her eyes will drift as your power slips. And once again, you'll stand stunned, asking, why does this keep happening? The answer is simple. You keep handing the same script to different actresses, hoping one will refuse to play the part. But none do. Because the play only exists if the myth is intact, and you're the one keeping it alive. You could have walked away from it all. You could have burned the theater. You could have let the pain teach you. But you didn't want truth. You wanted comfort. So you constructed a new fantasy and called it maturity. You painted the cage and called it choice. You spiritualized your dependency and called it depth. But beneath every soft conversation and shared vulnerability, you were still bargaining, still offering your soul in exchange for her gaze, still pretending this time would be different when you knew damn well it wouldn't. And that is how the myth lives, not through her deception, but through your desperation. You keep summoning the same performance, hoping to change the ending. But the ending is always the same, not because women are wicked, not because love is a lie, but because you refused to rewrite the script. You didn't evolve, you recast. And the play goes on. Curtain up, lights on. Same myth, new actress, same ruin. You never loved her. That's the truth you've buried beneath poetic metaphors and post-breakup anguish. You didn't love her soul. You didn't even see it. You loved her role, her timing, her alignment with your fantasy. She walked in at the moment you were starving for admiration, for affection, for escape, and she gave you a performance. And it was exquisite. Not because she was deceitful, but because you were willing to be deceived. You loved how she made you feel. You loved what she reflected. You loved the script she agreed to recite. But her, the actual human being behind the costume, you didn't want her. You wanted the illusion. And when she stopped playing it, you called it betrayal. You projected meaning onto every glance, every text, every sigh. You told yourself she was your soulmate, your destiny, your missing half. But what you really meant was she made you feel whole for a moment. She gave your emptiness a stage. She smiled on cue. She touched you just enough. She mirrored your strengths and flattered your flaws. and you mistook that for love. It wasn't love. It was theater. She acted, you applauded, and when the performance ended, you mourned as though something eternal had died. But it wasn't eternal. It was seasonal. A character exiting stage left, once her part, was no longer useful, and yet you rage. You rage at her for changing, for becoming distant, colder, real. You rage that she no longer looks at you like a god. But you're not a god. You never were. You were a projection of your own unmet need. And when she stopped feeding that delusion, your love collapsed. Not because she was false, but because you were. You built her up to be something she never agreed to be. You turned her into a shrine, not a person. And then blamed her when the shrine started cracking. You didn't want to know who she really was. You wanted confirmation that you were enough, that you were desirable, that you were powerful, that someone like her could want someone like you. She was the proof of your worth. That's why it hurt so much when she left, because without her gaze, you became invisible to yourself. That's why you still stalk her photos. That's why you can't let go. Not because of who she is, but because of what she represented. Her departure wasn't just heartbreak. It was identity collapse. You didn't lose love. You lost your mirror. And now, if you're honest, you'll see it clearly. Every time you say, I miss her, you're really saying, I miss who I got to be when she looked at me that way. You miss the role she let you play, the protector, the leader, the prize. You miss the man she pretended you were. And when she stopped pretending you had a choice, become that man for real, or chase the next woman who will pretend again. Most choose the latter. Because becoming is harder than repeating. Facing yourself is harder than falling in love. And most men would rather be adored than awakened. But here's the fatal price. If you only ever love the part she plays, you will never meet the woman. You will never see her shadows, her doubts, her chaos. You will never know intimacy, only performance, and she will feel it. She will know she's being used as a symbol, and eventually she will retreat, not because she doesn't love, but because she was never loved as herself, only as your illusion, your emotional stage prop, your borrowed crown. You never loved her. You loved the echo of your own longing in her eyes. And when that echo faded, so did your love. And now you sit with it, the ruins of every lie you once called love. The truth is not cruel. It is clean. She never betrayed you. She performed for you. You never knew her. You only knew your need. She played her part. You believed the script. And when the curtain fell, you called it heartbreak. But it was always theater, always transaction, always survival. You searched for unconditional love in a conditional world. You mistook usefulness for destiny. You mistook attention for devotion. And now, stripped of fantasy, stripped of her, stripped of yourself, you are free. Not saved, not healed, just free. The stage is empty. The myth is dead. And the spotlight is no longer yours. The only man who wins is the one who stops playing.